I have this one photo and I am sweating and it's like dark and I'm just looking like I ran for 3 days on the side of a road. And I'm just the biggest mess. The baby's like some funky cut, like white, like it's like a flash went off.
Welcome to the Mama I Hear You podcast, stories for moms by moms. I'm so happy you're here. I'm your host, Jamie Evans, and I have 2 boys, 4 and 7. This is a place where we can all connect and support each other by sharing our stories about all the things that come with motherhood in the early years. From the times that feel incredibly hard to the times that make you laugh out loud, no topic is off limits. So warm up your coffee again, and let's get started. Today's story is about Janey Strong and her experiences with home birth. Janey is the founder of Mommy Academy, an online space for moms. And as you'll soon find out, Janey is also very funny. At 28, Janey married her husband after dating for a couple of years. They started trying to have a family right away. They were both the middle child with 2 other siblings, so they planned on having at least 3.
I actually thought we were going to have more until I actually had 1. And then I kind of was like, maybe we're not going to have 4 or 5 or, that first one can rock your world a little bit. So I was like, okay, maybe let's just take this one child at a time.
One child at a time.
One child at a time.
A couple of months after she was married, she found out she was pregnant, but she wanted to confirm multiple times.
I definitely peed on a number of sticks. It's kind of like you don't really believe the first 2, right? You're just like, okay, this is so fun. Let me just pee on some more sticks.
I still actually have mine from both of my kids. Like in my
still
drawer.
have mine. It's like, are they going to disintegrate one of these days? I don't know.
Yeah, I love it though. Sometimes I open the drawer and I see it. And
yes, it's in my underwear drawer. What is that so funny?
I don't know.
That's where we keep really precious things, I guess. But no one's ever going to bother, in that drawer, hopefully.
Exactly. I could see my sons finding it someday and being like, what is this?
What is
that
this?
was you.
Is this a dried out marker or something?
Right. It was around Valentine's Day when she found out she was pregnant. So she decided to plan a special date and surprise her husband at a restaurant. So they're sitting at the restaurant and...
I'm pretty sure I pulled out the stick at the restaurant. How, appetizing. I think I literally just whipped it out at the restaurant. No, and I think I actually bought a little pair of booties or some little... newborn, I can't remember if it was booties or a onesie or something. I think I put the stick in there or something and he opened it. Something like that.
Did he know what the pregnancy stick was?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, he did. No, I know, right? Why? What is this? I think he knew because I think I had tried before and it didn't,
Oh, gotcha.
He kind of had a little bit of clue what it was.
I'm assuming he was through the roof.
Oh, he was so excited. Yeah, he was born to be a dad. He's just that kind of guy. He's a really hands-on dad. So he was ready. He was excited. We were surprised, but also, really excited and kind of ready, but not ready. Janey herself was born at home. Kinda by accident and kinda not.
You always knew you wanted to have a home birth.
Yeah. I just really believe in just, the body's natural abilities to give birth. It's just something I've always believed. It's just always something I knew I was going to do. I was actually born at home in the 70s, and it was kind of on accident, but my mom actually wanted it too. So when I kind of came blazing in the middle of the night, it was well, I don't think we're going to make it. So I ended up being born at home. Yeah, like my dad caught me. You know, the whole like story you hear about the dad catching the baby, like that really happened. You know, my parents always joked that my placenta was buried in the backyard, and I'm pretty sure it was.
That's the truth.
Yeah, like it was, you know, somewhere out there. So, you know, I think it was a little bit of a crazy experience, but turned out really, really good.
The only problem with Janey having a home birth herself was their home. They lived in an apartment with very thin walls.
Like we could hear our neighbors at night kind of wall, you know, where you're like, I don't know if this is a good idea. So for my first birth, we went to a birth center.
Okay. So you didn't have to like warn your neighbors beforehand.
No, that's what I pictured myself screaming at the top of my lungs and my neighbors thinking someone was getting like murdered or something.
Rushing over, calling 911.
Exactly. So I was like, let's just not have birth in this apartment complex.
When Janey finally went into labor, they drove to a birthing center that was a long 30 minutes away from their house.
So
Okay.
the way down there, this freeway that we were on, literally, I swear, there was so many potholes. Every pothole, I was laying in the back seat.
No.
In every pothole, my mom thought I was going to give birth. She was just like, are you okay? You know, and I'm just like, oh, just get there. It felt like the longest trip ever.
Janey, her mom, and her husband heroically navigated all the potholes and arrived at the birth center with Janey still pregnant. Think of a birth center as a cozy home away from home, but equipped with whatever a mom might need to give birth. Janey is in active labor at this point, moving back and forth between the tub and the bed for 10 hours. Her husband is beside her side the whole time, although she didn't really want to talk to him, except for that one time when her husband and midwife crossed a line. So how did your husband handle the birth of your firstborn?
So he did pretty darn good. So, I mean, this is not something you know until you're actually in the situation and giving birth. But a lot of women, I think, get really vocal and are kind of, you know, yelling, demanding. So I actually went mute. I could not be bothered with any questions. They were trying to help me. Do you want this? Do you want that? And I was just like, I cannot speak. And that was really interesting. I don't know if I was just so focused or just so in pain that I was like, I cannot be bothered with you. So he was there and supportive, but I literally was like, don't talk to me. As horrible as that sounds.
You were like in your own Zen meditation.
Yeah, this is all like just my body. I had this kind of like rocking, rowing motion, and I just kind of in my zone. I just believe that there's another power, you know, it's not just me kind of like powering through. There is this divine design to bringing life into the world. And it just felt like a little bit of a surreal out-of-body experience and painful. I was not speaking a whole lot. I do remember them being like, can we get you water? And I'm like, I can't. I just, you know.
Don't ask me these tough questions.
I know. I'm like, this is too much. Too much.
These are level 10. Like, tone it down.
Exactly. Except for one time, the only time I got really vocal was when they tried to put me on so my midwife had a birthing stool. I don't know if you know what that is. But
I don't.
It might as well have been like a torture device. It was basically...
What is a birthing stool?
So it's just kind of a stool you sit on, and it gets you in just kind of like a forward-facing position. So you're leaning forward, but you're kneeling on a stool a little bit.
Okay.
I think it's just supposed to kind of help progress birth, get you in a good position. But for whatever reason, that was like torture for me. So they heard from me about the birthing stool, the nerve of them. Like, that didn't go well.
Janey gave the final push and her baby girl is born. It was this magical moment that wasn't quite captured in the one photo that was taken right after birth.
Finally got her out. I mean, there's nothing like meeting your first baby after birth. There's nothing like it. And I wish I had, I don't know if you have this, but I always pictured kind of this amazing after birth photo, right? Where you're like holding the baby and you see these on the internet. I don't know if they're real, but I have this one photo and I am sweating and it's like dark and I'm just looking like I ran for 3 days on the side of a road. And I'm just the biggest mess. The baby's like some funky cut, like white, like it's like a flash went off.
Is that framed in your living room?
No, I don't. That's just kind of like put aside, it's like buried in my phone somewhere. The picture didn't represent, how amazing, of a moment it was. But I still am in awe of those women who post on Instagram, just gave birth, and you're like, okay, I did not look like that. I was such a wreck. It was just not pretty. But it all turned, it was a beautiful experience, regardless of, kind of what it might have looked like.
I mean, you didn't have drugs.
I didn't.
If you knew the difference, I'm just saying, you should have looked like you ran for 7 days, like uphill the whole time. So after running for 3 days or 7 days on the side of the road, uphill, instead of staying at a hospital where you get to do cool things like get the paper menu and check multiple main courses because you're starving at that point, her experience was pretty much the opposite.
So this is a very interesting thing about home births or in a birth center, right?
Yeah.
So after we had our daughter, I think, they me up and, kind of rested for a little bit, but it was probably 2 hours. 2 hours after I gave birth. And then it's kind of like, are you ready to go home? And I was ready. You don't hang out or stay the night usually. It's kind of one of the perks is you get to go home and be in your bed, but also hard because you have to actually get home. Get in the car and get home. So they packed us in the car with the baby, had her in her car seat. She was somehow okay with it. I was thinking, oh my gosh, what if she, you're always like, you're going to put her in that contraption, it's such a weird, you're like not next to her. I was sitting in the front. Actually, my mom was sitting in the back with her.
They were about to leave the birth center when their midwife suddenly stopped them.
But I remember we were getting ready to pull away, and my midwife runs up to my window, and I roll it down. And it was kind of like this, oh, by the way, I forgot to tell you kind of thing. She goes, okay, so don't forget when you get home to show your daughter around your house and talk to her about where she is. And I'm like, okay. She said that to me and I'm like, so are you telling me to give my 2-hour-old baby like a house tour, like when we get home? This sounded so ridiculous and so weird to me. I'm like, I can't even walk. I'm glad I got in the car, and she's just kind of like, don't forget to do this. It was so nonchalant, like, oh, of course you would do that, right? And I remember thinking about that on the way home, like, what is she talking about? She got the house tour when we got home from my husband because obviously I am like, just it was a 2-story apartment. So I had to get up the stairs. I'm like, just get me into the bed. But I remember him that night walking around with her and just talking to her like she was a guest in our home. with
What
real
did he
words.
say?
He would just be like, this is our little guest bathroom. You know, we come in, just like whatever you would say to showing someone around your house. Not talking to her like she's a baby, but like she's just a guest.
The next morning, Janey went into her daughter's room and saw this.
My husband was sitting on like our glider with her, and he was reading her a book. He had this really classic baby book that he was reading that we read, I can't tell you how many hundreds of times over the years. Pat the Bunny.
Oh, yeah.
You know that one?
Good
And he would take her little hands so she could feel the rabbit fur. You know, she's not even a day old, right? And I remember thinking, what are you doing? Like, are you like delirious? Are you okay? You know, like you're reading her a book, like she can't see. I would have never thought, okay, I'm going to read a book to my 8-hour-old baby, right? And then I had to remind myself, hey, she can hear these words. She's taking in these words. She's feeling his love. They can see, you know, like close to their face. And, you know, ultimately came to the realization that this little baby was an actual person. A person with ideas and preferences and so much intelligence that I never even thought of, right? So that was that little aha moment that my midwife sprinkled on me as we drove away.
Fast forward a couple of years, and their daughter is now 2 years old, and they have their second, but this time, Janey gets to have her home birth at home.
Obviously, the best part about home birth is when you're actually at your home and you don't have to like go anywhere. For my second birth, my daughter went down for her nap at 1:00. And then when she woke up at 4, she had a baby brother. So that was, you know, kind of like, I'm glad you woke up. You know, here, look what you missed while you were sleeping kind of thing.
After their second was born, her husband completed their family with a puppy.
My husband was definitely more on the side of like, I think 2 is great. We got a girl, we got a boy, like happy, healthy. Let's just, you know, we did good. Yeah. And he actually even got us a puppy. It's kind of like, oh, look, it's our third baby.
Did you really want a third?
Yeah, I was lining for a third.
Gotcha.
But I wasn't going to push it because I just was like, well, if you know, if your husband's like not on board, that's not good either. So I had wanted a third, but also understood, you know, where he was coming from.
Did he ever say, I don't want to necessarily push for another baby right now, but now we have this puppy dog?
I don't know if he ever officially said it, but I knew that's exactly what he was doing. Kind of like, well, let's just round out our family with a sweet puppy and we'll be good, you know. I don't know if he ever officially said, okay, here's your third baby, but I knew what he was doing. But we wanted a dog too, so.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Good. I'm glad you wanted a dog.
Yes, we did want the
happy.
dog. Yeah.
You wanted a dog.
We did want the dog.
First comes baby, then comes second baby, then comes dog, then comes...
So my first 2 are 2 years apart. And then we kind of had a little surprise 5 years later with my third. So we got the puppy, and then a couple years later, we got the third baby. So that's the way it goes.
That's exciting.
Yeah. It was good. I think we were always destined to have 3, like I said. Even if my husband was like, maybe 2 is good. It didn't work out that way.
So with the third, did you change up your game at all?
The third was a little more like, oh no. More like, get in here. It was a fun surprise, but it was a little more of a shock, I think.
It wasn't like the planned restaurant date with the onesie.
No. It was not. It was like, hey, so... You know,
you know how you got a dog?
Yeah. You know how you got a dog, and we talked about 2 is amazing. Yeah, it was more of just like, I just went up and said, hey, surprise, shock, and he was like, oh my gosh, okay, here we go,
Her third child was born at home as well.
So for my second 2 births, I had at our home, which was special.
That is so special. Do you still live in the same house?
I do, and have the same bed.
Janey got the third she had always pined for, a daughter and then 2 sons. But in case you're wondering, their family is complete. No more dogs, no fish, and limited houseplants. So what would happen if you had a 4th?
Don't even say that. We've both decided that we're complete. So
you're complete.
Yeah. So I think because we're both like on the same, we're like pretty much like we're done. Yeah. So that hopefully is like that we're done. I think. Yes. Yeah.
And then are you done with the dogs? You have 1 dog.
Yes.
The dog doesn't need a sibling.
Our dog is terrorizing us at the moment. So yeah, just 1 dog. Okay. Yes.
Okay. You are totally
We're just so complete. We're good. Yeah.
Yes. Fish or anything? No. We're just like okay.
I can barely keep houseplants alive. So we're just gonna do fake houseplants and no more dogs.
Thank you for listening to Janey's story. The purpose of the Mama I Hear You podcast is to support moms. So as a way to offer support, Janey is giving away her signature Mommy Academy e-course called Remarkable Infants to a few mamas as part of this podcast launch celebration giveaway. There are other cool prizes too, like $500 cash, and of course, a Pat the Bunnies book set. You can learn more about entering the giveaway at the end of this episode or by going to mamaihearyou.com. mamaihearYou.com. But for now, I want to share with you a little bit about Mommy Academy and the Remarkable Infants course she's giving away, what it is and how it came to be, and how Janey ended up meeting parenting experts that, helped her with her own parenting. As Janey and her husband grew their family, it became second nature to them to interact with their newborns and children just like you would any person, and not to think of them as just a baby.
I think it's just really thinking about them as an intelligent person. Babies learn to talk, read, and communicate from the first days of life. And they are just collecting information from feeling things, from looking at things, hearing things. And the more you understand that every single little connection that they make, whether it's you putting their feet in the grass or talking to them while you're changing their diaper and telling them what you're doing, every single one of those connections is building their brain. And it's a mindset. And so, when you feel silly talking to your baby about what they did that day and they're 2 months old, you don't feel so silly doing that anymore because you're like, hey, we're talking, we're having a conversation. And even though they're not talking back, what's happening is they understand so much more before they can actually talk back to you.
Before Mommy Academy, Janey started an Instagram account called Darling Readers to promote early reading.
I have always been a little bit obsessed with children's books, baby books, board books. I started an Instagram account about basically children's books and baby books, and I was posting about that and just talking about reading to babies and early literacy. It's just something I am obsessed about, just because I saw the effects of it in my own family. And I just felt like parents don't know what they don't know. And so I think a lot of people aren't reading to babies because they don't know that they should. And they don't understand why they should. And one thing I always said on my early literacy account when I had that Instagram page is it's never too early or too late to start reading to your kid. People are always like, well, when should I start? And the time is now, whenever now is for you, whether that's 2 months or 2 years old. Like, it's never too early or too late. So you can always start.
Through her early literacy account, she met a lot of parenting experts, and she decided to try out some of their strategies with her third baby.
I met these other professionals that, basically that worked in baby development in different, whether it was nutrition or speech or motor skills. I was having my third baby. And I'm like, you know what? It's never too late to do things a little bit differently, It's never too late to maybe try a different way of feeding that I would never have known or tried before, or to try to build sleep habits and understand what baby sleep is and what they need from me. I just wanted to learn.
With her first baby, which I can totally relate to, she relied on Google a lot to get help and answer questions about things like sleep.
With my first, I just kind of struggled through. I didn't understand baby sleep. I didn't understand overtiredness. Like, oh my gosh, she didn't sleep all day. She's going to sleep great tonight, right? Like, that's kind of not at all how it works. So with my first, I just literally, I struggled through some very exhausting, sleepless nights.
And for questions about introducing solid foods.
I was that person who tried to put the rice cereal in the bottle, right? That's like, okay, this is going to help my baby sleep longer. All these things where they're like, oh, that's such a myth. I did that. Yeah, it didn't work, by the way. I wish I would have known about baby-led weaning. Like, I didn't even know what that was. I didn't even know, like, you could give babies chunks of food. That would have scared me to death. Someone tried to give my baby, like, a chunk of food, I would have just, what are you doing? Like, it would have been really bad.
Eventually, Janey brought all of these parenting experts together who are also moms to create Mommy Academy. Here's why she did it.
You know what? So much of mothering, of course, is like your intuition and your heart and your love. Like, that's the major part of it. But how nice to have somebody who's an expert, who's also a mom, who's been there to be like, hey, what if you tried this? What about this simple little tweak that could make a big difference for you? Like, that kind of stuff where you're like, oh, you don't have to struggle so much. You don't have to spend, so much time on Google, and you can get these little tips that you're like, oh, that would be so helpful, And that's kind of what Mommy Academy is. We have tons of free resources for whether you want to learn, how do I talk to my baby, or how do I build healthy sleep habits? Anything like that. We have lots of free resources.
Remarkable Infants is the course Janey is giving away to 3 mamas. It's where she brings all of the strategies and experts together. It is a 5-step, all-inclusive online training for new moms, focusing on the development of the whole child from birth through 12 months of age. It sets your baby up to thrive with up-to-date research, well-organized information, and practical, easily implemented tips.
As I joined arms with these other experts, and I was like, I'm passionate about early literacy and reading to babies, and they're experts in nutrition and speech. I thought, how cool would it be to all come together and kind of create this comprehensive little course that was everything you needed to know to really understand your baby, and to little simple things that anybody could do to nurture their development in a really fun, simple way. And what I realized is that it's actually all connected. All development is connected. And so, yes, you can learn just about sleep or just about feeding, But all of this is connected together. Their cognition and their speech and their motor is absolutely connected to their sleep and their nutrition, right? So I was like, there needs to be this comprehensive little course that they could do that's simple and easy and just give them ideas of things that they can do to boost and nurture their baby's development.
You can find Janey on Instagram at Mommy Academy, or she also has a website and a blog at mommy-academy.com. That's where you can access all of her free resources or learn more about the Remarkable Infants course. Thank you so much for listening to this episode. I had a wonderful time recording it, and I hope it left you feeling connected and encouraged. Before you take off, I have something exciting to share. To celebrate the launch of the Mama I Hear You podcast, we are giving away up to $1,500 worth of prizes to 4 lucky moms who follow and review on Apple Podcasts or share this podcast on Facebook or Instagram. When you enter the contest, you stand the chance to win $500 cash, access to the Remarkable Infants course, an all-inclusive baby prep course every soon-to-be mama needs, a membership to the Mothers Together community for moms raising neurodiverse kids, and many more fun prizes. Head over to www.mamaihearyou.com to enter the contest. I've also put together a special section for amazing mamas like yourself who may be interested in sharing your story on this podcast. The place to find all the details is www.mamaihearyu.com. And again, thank you so much for listening in today.